Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be taking a look at the toughest optic that Holosun has to offer. This is what they call their military-grade optic, the Holosun HS515GM. So let's take a closer look. Okay, so here's a closer look at our optic. Again, this is the Holosun HS515GM. This is a really feature-rich optic, especially for the price. And there are a lot of great features that we're going to talk about here in just a second, but this thing's coming in at just over 300 bucks, like $309, I think, at the time of this video, which is really not bad considering everything that you get with this red dot right here. And it is a very tough red dot. Now, in full transparency, this was sent to the channel by Optics Planet for me to review. If you guys want coupon codes, discounts, links, and stuff like that, all you have to do is head over to my website. My website will be linked down below, and you'll be able to save yourself even more money. But it's still coming in at just over 300 bucks, which is really, really good. I'll explain to you why that's good here in just a second as we go over the features. So the first thing, you have a very tough housing on this. It actually feels a little bit more robust than some of the other optics from Holosun. So you have like the 503G, the 403s and stuff like that. This one feels like it's a little bit heftier. I mean, I know it has a couple extra features, but still the body of it feels like it's a little bit tougher. It is 7075 T6 aluminum around the housing, so it's going to be a very tough material. Feels like it's nice and thick. It does come with a quick disconnect mount, which is really nice. Now, the cool thing about this quick disconnect mount is that it does have a locking lever, and that lever's not going to go anywhere. So if you get it snagged on gear, you get it snagged on something as you're, storing it, you don't have to worry about this thing coming off. The lever does not come off unless you depress a button that is behind a lever and then lift up simultaneously. That will allow the lever to move up and you can remove this optic from the mount. Once you bring it back, there's a little click, you'll hear it. Once that thing clicks on, again, it's not going anywhere. So it's got a really nice tight fit on it. It adjusts with a simple torque screw right there. So if you have issues with one rail being out of spec versus the other one and you need to tighten it down, you can do that pretty easily with a torque screw. For instance, my Ruger 1022, the rail on that is actually a little bit wider than the rail on my typical AR-15s or AR-10s. It's a little bit wider, and so if I want to switch between the two, I actually have to tighten it down just a little bit in order to get it to fit, because the Ruger one is just a little bit out of spec. It's not standard spec like you find on the top rail of your AR or something. But it also comes with two mounts. So you have the original, which is on here. It's how it's going to come out of the box with the quick disconnect. But it also comes with a low mount as well. Now, the low mount's great because it allows you to take this mount off. There's simply 4 screws. You unscrew those, put on the low mount, and then you can mount this thing to, let's say, like an AK or a shotgun or something that has a lower comb than a typical AR. So an AR has a comb that's in line with the bore, but other guns like ARs, lever actions, things like that all have a comb that's lower than the bore. So you need the optic to come down. With the low mount, you can do that. So it's nice that you can switch between the two. Now, this has the typical battery life that you're going to find out of a Holosun. You're looking at, there's 2 different reticles. So you have 2 different battery lives, essentially, one for each reticle. So with the standard dot, which is a 2 MOA dot, with that dot on its own, you get up to 50,000 hours of battery life. With the circle dot, this has a 65 MOA circle and a 2 MOA dot. With that one, you get up to 20,000 hours of battery life. So pretty good battery life, typical of Holosun. Now, speaking of battery life, this thing uses a single CR2032 battery, which is located in this little side compartment right here. You can use a quarter or a screwdriver in order to get that thing off, and it's very easy to install the battery. And like I've been telling people, CR2032s have become so much more common than they used to be. I keep telling people I get my batteries at IKEA, and there's proof right there. I think all of these were like $5. And that's what I use in all of my optics, and my optics run for years and years, as long as the battery life says that they should, even though, I usually replace them a little bit before the longest term of the battery life. So if it says it has 5 years on it, I'll typically change it in 2 or 3 years. But still, for 2 or 3 years, these batteries right here will last you for that long, no problem whatsoever. So these types of batteries are much more common than they used to be. I mean, you could even pick them up at grocery stores these days. They have them in their battery aisle. So they're easy to find batteries, easy to change out, and good to go. Now, another thing that I like about this optic right here is that it comes with some extras that you wouldn't get on the typical Holosun, like flip-up caps. So we have these flip-up caps, both front and back, and the nice thing about these flip-up caps is that they are both front and back clear. That means that I can use this thing with the flip-up caps up, and that's exactly what I do. There's not really a need for me to run this thing with the caps down with these clear lenses on it. As long as I have these clear lenses up, that means that my glass is going to stay protected, and I'm not going to have to worry about, you know, anything getting in there, dust, dirt, debris, fingerprints, and you know, even if you live in colder climates where there's a lot of snow, you don't have to worry about it getting in there. And because these caps are more flush, you don't have to dig any of that material out. All you have to do is just take your finger and wipe it off if it gets on there, or take your shirt and kind of clean it off. So I run that with both caps up, but it's nice that it comes with those clear caps. Now on the front, another thing I want to show you guys here is that it does come with a kill flash. Kill flash basically sort of kills the return flash that somebody might see if they're downrange from you, slightly at an angle. You might see some flash if you're dead on, but if you're off just a little bit, it will kill the reflection that would come off of this front lens, because these lenses do have a really nice, very heavy duty coating on them. It's supposed to be anti-scratch, supposed to be anti-fog, anti-fingerprint, all that stuff, you know, dust resistant and so forth, and it allows for excellent light transparency. But again, that kill flash is going to keep some of that reflection from heading downrange, which I think is nice, especially for something that you're calling, you know, your military grade optic. Now, I've been using Holosuns since 2015, I think is when I first reviewed them. So I've been using them since a little bit before that, before I actually reviewed the first one. And they've all worked out really well for me. So I have absolutely no doubt that this one's going to be no different. This is a very nice, tough little optic. Even the adjustment screws right here are completely protected. So unlike some where you would have little red dot, it's really hard for me to show. I don't know why my camera's kind of blacking things out. Maybe you guys can see this on the top right here. But unlike some red dots that have some material built up to protect the turrets, this one right here has enough material protected, built up to completely protect the turret. So when I show you guys the optic like this, okay, there is no way to access the turret in this direction. So if I was to bump it on a tree or a post, if I'm using this in competition and I'm trying to get up against a barrier and I knock it against something, there's no way for me to damage or destroy that turret, because the turret is completely protected and sunken down inside of that little protective housing. And then you can reach in there. It's got some openings on the side, a little bit of knurling on these caps, and you can remove the caps. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to do with gloves on, but just with your bare fingers, you can go ahead and take those turret caps off. But they are completely protected turrets. Again, unlike others that stick up a little bit from the protective material, which kind of makes it null and void at that point anyway. So here we have our turret. There are 1/2 MOA adjustments that you can make with this. There is a little tool on the top right here, kind of like a flathead screwdriver. You simply stick it down in there and you go ahead and you make your adjustments for both windage and elevation. And I believe it's a total of 100 MOA of travel that you would get. So basically 50 up, 50 down, so forth. Now, this optic does have 12 different brightness settings, a couple different night vision settings, and at its brightest, it is ridiculously bright. I mean, even out in the desert shooting against red sand, it is really, really bright. If you were to take this thing indoors and then turn it all the way up, it's actually hard to even look at the reticle. It gets so bright. Now, the settings between 1 and 5, I would say that those are probably best used for, let's say, like home defense. When you're in an area that's not super bright and it's kind of dim, if you were to try and take this outside and use settings, you know, 1 through 5, it's kind of hard to see during the day. But as you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that's when you can see it better actually outside in the sunlight. So just try and keep that in mind as well. Now, this also has an auto on, auto off feature. I don't mind auto on. I do mind auto off if it doesn't have an auto on, because I want to make sure that I can pick up my optic and have it be there with me all the time. So the cool thing about this is if I leave it at, let's say, setting 8, right? And then I leave it alone for a little while, it's going to go to sleep, and that's going to save the battery. But then the second you give it just a little bit of movement, it turns itself back on to the previous setting that you had it on. So that's really nice. That means that it's an always on optic, always ready to go optic. So if you're going to be using it on something that's defensive, which is really what this is intended for, then you're going to have a long battery life and you're going to have an optic that's always ready to go. So I like the auto on, auto off feature. I like all the brightness settings. I like the fact that it's super tough. It's got a great battery life. I mean, Holosuns have really come a long way over the past 6 years that I've been using them, and they just seem to get better and better every single year. And if you're looking for something, I mean, we can't all afford aim points, okay? Aim points cost $600, $700, $800, $900 for an aim point. If you go with some of the other aim points that are out there, you're going to spend well over $1,000. And not everybody has that kind of money. It's just, it's really, really expensive. So to find something like this that uses a lot of the same materials, uses a lot of the same technology, and has all of these great features, then I don't see a reason why somebody couldn't get this. I have a feeling that this is basically a rival, but nobody really wants to say that because Aimpoint's been tried and true and tested by the military, and so it has that long-standing abuse to back it up, where Holosun I don't think really has that same lineage, I guess you could say. And so it's really hard to say that this is going to be as tough as something like that, but at the same time, it does have a lot of those same features that you're going to find on a lot more expensive optic, but you're not going to have to break the bank or refinance your house in order to buy one. I mean, around that $300 price point, I think is a pretty good deal. So I think it's definitely well worth it and well worth checking out. So anyway, this is the Holosun HS515GM, Holosun's military grade optic. Thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a great day.